Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me over?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another show of the Field Op. It's your boy Pacho right here, and it's Baby Friday, Friday night's Eve, but goddamn, it's almost the weekend. So I got an amazing show with an amazing guest right here. And before I introduce my man right here on the show, let's get all the quick pleasantries out of the way. This show is brought to you by, the great and I know a lot of us got a little bit of beef with the VA. Nonetheless, it is an amazing organization that helps us veterans. It's not perfect. The system is not perfect, but we can always make it better. So if you haven't taken the time to go to apply for your VA claims, whether it's under the PAC Act or for the burn pits or whatever the case may be, please do yourself the due diligence and submit a claim. There's some amazing organizations like the Disabled American Veterans, American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars that can help you put a claim together. Or you can reach out right here to your boy in the show, and I can go ahead and put you in touch with on the right direction. And I can even help you put something together, so at least we get the clock ticking. But at the end of the day, folks, you got to do yourself the justice, because these are benefits that you earn because you gave your heart, your body, mind, soul, and spirit to the machine, so to speak. And these are benefits that are owed to you. America owes you this, so go ahead and claim it by no means. So, and then also, excuse me, this show is also brought to you by the Great American Constitution. We wouldn't be here today if this amazing document wasn't in place, where it gives us the right to bear arms, freedom of speech, and then the right to vote. Shit, we're getting ready to do this next month. So regardless whether you swing to the right, to the left, to the middle, up, down, upside down, it doesn't really matter. Exercise your rights as an American, and go ahead and do your part and vote. Exercise your right to vote and put your vote on there. And because if you're going to complain about how the government is and whatever the case may be, at least vote. And you can say, well, I try to vote. I did vote, and so exercise. So again, the American Constitution is a great document, and that we all support and love. So, and with that being said, like, subscribe, and follow. And let everybody else know about the show. Okay. Well, I think that's all the pleasantries out of the way. This amazing guest right here, we've been trying to communicate and put some stuff together here since a while now. He's an amazing artist. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll also showcase some of his amazing work. But this is Austin Waggoner. Austin, go ahead and welcome to the show, brother. How are you, man?
I'm doing good.
That's great. So, all right. So, you know how when service members, when we're at a bar, probably at the VA or maybe even at the American Legion having a beer, just go ahead and tell us, when did you serve, what branch, what time frame, units, all that good stuff.
So I joined in 1996.
Okay.
After took 3 years to finally get into the military.
Really?
Yeah, I was that tall, skinny kid who could never gain weight.
Oh.
So every time I'd go to try and enlist, I was always 5-6 pounds underweight.
Oh, wow.
So my recruiters back in the day had to put in the work but it took 3 years, 6 different MEPs, and I finally enlisted when I was 19. Did 18 years before I was medically retired because of my PTSD. And it was a time in uniform was probably some of the greatest times I've ever spent. Yeah, it was that was I was a 19-year-old kid that joined that was lost and instantly found home. So
Wow.
I loved her. I even the bad days, I love every single day. I was fortunate enough to be in uniform. Yeah, got to see. Yeah, I'm a small farm town kid. Yeah, I grew up in a my graduating high school class was 91 students.
Oh man, yeah, that's
So I grew up in that. I'm not going to say Mayberry, but I grew up in that Mayberry farming town where everyone in town knew my dad. Um, God, it's funny looking back now. We walked to school every day. And it didn't matter if it was raining or snowing or what. You know, walked. My dad was at work at 5:30 in the morning. Would come home, take care of us. Then as soon as we hit the bed, he was going back to work till about 1 or 2 in the morning and get up after a couple hours and do it again. So
wow.
it was an interesting upbringing.
And
But
what branch was it that you joined?
I joined the army.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
I started out as a when I originally enlisted, I started out as a 13 Bravo, which is a cannon crew member.
Oh, snap. Cannon cocker.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know,
Artillery.
the motto of the field artillery cannon crew members was always, pull string, get a cookie. You did. It was funny because when I joined, they had, I scored. I'm not gonna say I scored great on the ASVAB because I took the ASVAB every year as offered in high school just to get out of class.
Yeah.
Let's get out of class, go do something stupid for an hour. Then I got the whole rest of the morning to screw off.
Nice.
But I still scored good. I had a lot of jobs opened up, but this after 3 years of trying, this was the first one that got me out the door in uniform. And I joined as a 13 Bravo. Went to basic over at Fort Sill. Um, as we were getting ready to, when I went to basic, being a field artillery guy, it was one station unit training. So it was OSIT. You hit basic training and you rolled your AIT or your advanced training in with your basic.
Right.
So at the point where we would have, if we were, going to basic here and then going to AIT here, at the point where we would have been graduating basic, our drill sergeants came in and they asked, who had a driver's license. Me and a handful of guys threw our hands up and all right, pack your stuff. You are now officially going to be a 13 Mike, an MLRS crew member, multiple launch rocket systems.
Oh wow.
The divas of the artillery world.
The Beavers.
And you know, then we packed up and went over to across the base to a new AIT. But it was, over the course of my career, I went back to Fort Sill 3 separate times
Yeah, yeah.
for
That's even the Marine. That's a joint school because Marine Corps
yeah.
Artillery. They my
Oh,
last unit when I got out is was 11th Marines, and they're all cannon
so
cockers.
so here's yeah. When I first joined, you're talking mid 90s, a different world.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you didn't have the political correct games. Uh, most of the seniors in my basic train and in that trade like area were all Vietnam vets. If you're above the rank of E7, you're more likely you're a Vietnam era vet. And it was that old military. You train hard every day. I mean, you knew if you stepped out of line, drill sergeants were going to be knee deep in someone.
You can
And
say
there
new
was
shit. It's okay.
yeah, drill was going to be knee deep in your ass, and it wasn't the kind army. It was nothing to see another guy get drill sergeant smack someone, because they're being stupid. So when we left basic and went over to our AIT, we show up and they're like, hey, you guys are on a 4-day pass, but you have to have your stuff ready, so go in there, make your racks, hang everything up in your wall locker, get everything folded. Everything had to be inspection ready. And as soon as that was all done, we all had to go meet up with our drill, who was a staff sergeant, prior Marine, and he hated the fact that he couldn't go back. He was that guy that, he got out of the Marines. I'm going to go do big, great things. 2 weeks later, he hated being a civilian. He went to go re-enlist in the Marines, and they're like, "Hey, you quit. We don't take you back." So he had that little chip on his shoulder. So for us to get that 4-day pass, we had to go play a prank on the Marine detachment.
Wow.
So, here we are, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. We're stupid. We love to play pranks. That night, he went down and got the supplies. We told him, we need like case of Nair, a bunch of dental floss. And we went in there. We had to do the whole deal. Camo the face up, which, God, I still have nightmares of that camouflage stick.
Yeah, because
And
that thing
only,
you will literally tear your skin apart. I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, you're applying that thing, and you got guys out there with lighters trying to soften this thing up. And no, it's still ripping skin. But we went in there. The drill sergeant went and took over, distracted the fire watch. So we went in there, tied everybody to the racks with the dental floss, filled their pillows with Nair, and then pulled the fire alarm and ran out.
Wow.
We took it a little bit too far, because while we're doing that up in the bay, one of our guys got a hold of Chesty, and he duct taped Chesty to the flagpole.
Oh wow.
But it was constant. Back then you were constantly pranking the other. If you're around other branches, it was a prank war. We knew.
Yeah, I mean, it was all in good and fun. I mean,
Yeah,
one team, same fight. I mean, it's the whole. I mean,
yeah.
If a bar fight were to happen, I mean, everybody would have each other's backs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, back then the field artillery's mascot was the mule. We had a donkey, and it had its own pen. It was it had the rank of staff sergeant. It was hilarious, and we'd run by this donkey every time we ran for PT. You're running by the donkey. I mean, everybody, we loved the donkey. A week after we pranked the Marines, we're doing a DeVarty run. For those that don't know, DeVarty is division artillery. So every field artillery unit on that base is over there doing a run. And we start coming around. We got the DeVarty commander, which was a full colonel. And we start coming about a mile away from the donkey's pen. Well, the Marines had got us back. They had taken ratchet straps and hoisted this donkey about 5 feet off the ground on a big old tree branch. So you could hear this thing screaming, wailing away from across base.
Oh wow.
But it was stuff like that made the memories back then.
And good times like that is is makes your time frame. And that's why I love doing this show and talking to vets, because at the end of the day, stories like this, or sea stories, as we say, sea stories like this, it's one of those we call them stand stories.
Yeah.
No shit, there I was.
And it was stuff like that. After I left basic, I went and spent 6 years over at went to Fort Hood. Wound up being there for about 6 years. I did a year in Korea and then came right back to the same unit.
Okay.
And then I reclassed. I changed jobs, from being MLRS, decided it was a good job. It was an easy job. And I wanted a little bit more of a challenge. And they're like, hey, your scores are where you need to be to reclass to, combat job. How about you go do this? And it was 13 Fox, being a forward observer.
Okay,
and did that the rest of my career. And that was probably some of my favorite times in my career were as an FO. Be it, over in, was after I reclassed, within a few months was 9/11. And at the time I was stationed up at Fort Drum in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
So half the guys that I was up there with were all from New York City or around that area. They knew people by somehow, some connection. They knew people in the trade centers, or, it was a crazy time. And, we were our first day of our training box down at Fort Polk was 9/11.
Wow.
So we were down in Louisiana doing a training mission for our train up for a UN mission, and watched the towers get hit, watched everything unfold. And they came back about 2 hours later. They're like, hey, this is what we know. This is what's going on. Mission still is a go. So get to training. And we ran 2 weeks of stick lanes and then went back up to New York. And then, fortunately, but unfortunately, our UN mission to Kosovo continued, while another one of our sister battalions deployed to Afghanistan.
And so aside from Kosovo, where else did you deploy? Because
well, I spent a year in Korea, but back then it was considered a PCS. Now it's considered a deployment.
Yeah.
Went to Kosovo. Did After I got back, I got out, joined up with the Oregon Guard, and I went over to Iraq with the Washington Guard the following year. So this was in 2004. Did that first deployment, came home, and fought tooth and nail to go back to active duty. The National Guard, they're great. They have some great organizations. A lot of what I saw was not happy with.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got to go back to where I belong, which was back in uniform, back active duty. Went to Fort Bliss, where I spent the rest of my career, but deployed twice out of there. One more time to Iraq, and then once to Afghanistan.
And let me ask you this, if I can ask the question. You mentioned that obviously, you got medically separated. When did you start noticing that you were having struggles with, with yourself? Those type of things. Again, with your PTSD.
When I was
for me, it was towards the end of my career. I was having a lot of anger issues. I was blackening. I was blackening out in town. Thank God I didn't get arrested and shit, or got into a really bad fight or whatever. However, I mean, there were certain triggers and things that kind of led me to end up in the intensive outpatient program. What was it for you, where you're like, oh shit, maybe I should get help, or whatever the case may be? What time frame was that, and how did it happen?
For honestly, looking back now, I developed severe PTSD after my first tour to Iraq back in 2004. But there was that old mentality, just keep going, work through it, missions first,
Run it out,
and
whatever.
Yeah, it was you tuck it away, you don't talk about it, and you just keep going, because there was a lot of it was because of fear of retribution.
Right.
Because especially most of my career was spent with light infantry units, or in infantry units, and it was, you had that mentality. You don't go to set call. You do what you got to do to get through and move on to the next mission.
You don't want to be known as a sick bay commando, is how we used to say.
Yeah. And especially
sick layman lazy is the other term that we use.
My first tour in Iraq, I got we crossed over from Kuwait into Iraq on April 1st. Great joke from Uncle Sam. But I mean, I remember that night was didn't sleep. You know, everyone. I don't know too many people that really racked out that night because we knew at we already had our SP time for to move north. We were leaving at like 3 or 4 in the morning. So it was pointless to sleep because everyone was jacked up. Nobody knew what was going to happen as soon as the sun came up.
Right.
You know, it was we dealt with a lot of mortars, got into a few firefights, got blown up, you know, got blasted with an ID, and I think that started. I mean, that first ID blast rocked me. I'll admit it, you know. But I went back out the same day. We got into a different truck. We just got lucky,
Right.
and you know, I got medevaced out of there, and I really noticed it when I went up to launch school because we're in this old, you know, we're in these old World War II German barracks, big heavy oak doors, and it was. I think I went about 4 days without sleeping because every time you try and lay down, people coming in and out, and these doors, unless you held them to close them, if you let them go, they were slamming shut, and it was just a constant deal. And it just, I think it rattled me. But you know, I tucked it away, came back in. I didn't really notice how bad it had gotten until I was in Afghanistan. You know, it was there. You know, my first 2 weeks, my company lost 4 guys in an IDX blast, and we watched it. You know, we went up to the truck, and you could hear one of the survivors. You know, it was a it was a medic truck, and they got hit. But back then, you know, we were kind of low on vehicles, so we threw ammo everywhere. Medic truck had the most free space. A lot of ammo went in the back of that, and that the ammo being in there actually prevented us from getting in there and trying to get the platoon sergeant out. But it was after that, you know, it was all the way until the passes got closed by the snow. It was a firefight every day. Once spring hit, you know, for people that have been to Afghanistan, once the temperatures raised up enough for that first thaw, that first melt, it was game on again. You know, the only time winter is the most boring time in Afghanistan because you do a lot of missions, but we didn't do a lot of, you know, there was no fights. It was just long, you know, a bunch of air assaults, cold nights, bunch of guard duty, bunch of mount. But once spring kicked up, as soon as you stepped to the wire, you knew you were getting in a fight that day.
So now that you're back, so how did you, how did you reach out for help, or how, because I know you
I
currently, and we'll get into this here in just a second. I know you're an artist yourself, and you do, some engraving, which is amazing work, and we'll show the viewers here in just a second. So was that, was that your transition after you started getting help, where you got into art as a venue to release some of that?
No, I've been an artist my whole life. I got into tattooing when I got up to New York.
Okay.
I did an apprenticeship at a tattoo shop, and you know, I did that for almost 20 years.
Okay, that makes sense.
But
Engraving, it's kind of like
and the engraving work, I started doing that 6 years ago.
oh wow.
And it was, you know, that is, you know, for as far as the PTSD goes, that's like the best therapy in the world for me. Is I go out to my work shack and put in my earbuds and I engrave all day. Don't have to deal with people. I just focus on what I'm doing. But no, it was after I came back from Afghanistan, I went to see the the therapist over at the aid station or at the TMC, and got into doing like a couple of the group sessions, and it got to the point where I couldn't even sit in the group sessions. I would, you know, I'm looking at a lot of these kids, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, you stayed on a base the whole time. I started judging their experiences of combat. And granted, you know, some jobs were luckier than others and had a much nicer time.
Right.
But my therapist, we started doing individual appointments, and it was at that point when I was like, you know, I can't do this anymore. I finally had to admit it to myself. I was back to, you know, not sleeping. Luckily, I never got into the self-medicating with alcohol. I knew I had drinking issues early in life. I come from multiple alcoholics on both sides of the family, and you know, even as a teenager, I didn't do the party stuff a lot. I worked, so it was never alcohol's. When I was in Korea, it became a real big thing, and I learned how to control it, but I never fell off that edge where it was, oh, as soon as I got off work, I'm drinking.
Right.
Oh, I got to stop because we got PT in an hour. Um, but yeah, it was at that point, within a few months of getting home from Afghanistan, that we started the process of getting medically retired.
Mm. And so clearly you started, you know, you got some help, and your coping mechanisms. Tell me a little bit about, so you obviously have an artist and a drawing background. You got into tattooing. You've been doing that for a long time. And so how did you start doing the whole engraving thing?
Actually, it was an army buddy. I was going to, you know, doing the smart thing, using the GI Bill. I was doing the Boca Rehab program through the VA,
which is an amazing program, by the way. I highly recommend for everybody to try.
Oh yeah, I fully recommend it to any veteran who isn't sure where they're at, if it's the right spot. Well, you want to try something new, or get into something else, the VA will help you do it. Yeah. You got to fight. I mean, you have to advocate for yourself. And that's a hard thing for a lot of the veterans to do.
Thank you. I'm glad that you said that.
Because it was about it was probably about a 6-month process. I had to go through, do the entrance exams for the community college, you know, just the placement stuff, because if I was going to go to since I already knew I was going to go do the trade programs, I was going to go into the automotive stuff. I've always wanted to learn. You know, my dad I grew up as a mechanics kid, so that means we always had the shittiest cars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was transportation and logistics. I became a mechanic in the Marine Corps, and
yeah,
you know, my thing was motorcycles, and I always had the shittiest ones.
Yeah, and you know, growing up as a mechanics kid, I loved old classics.
Yeah.
So day and started teaching myself. And like, I
Wow.
know that I'm not trying to, I'll never trash another artist, but in my mind, 20 years as a tattoo artist, I can do this. I draw on people's skin and, put ink into it. I can do this all day. And, it was just something that at that point I was really falling out of tattooing. I was getting burnt out. Had a real hard time dealing with just interacting with the customers because
Yeah.
if you tattoo in the military, you tattoo some of the dumbest shit ever because soldiers we're stupid. We'll get something completely stupid tattooed because we get paid in 2 weeks. We don't care.
Yeah. Well, let's. Why don't we
And
do this? I'm gonna go ahead and share some of your work. Let me pull it up on the screen. Uh, yeah. Tell me about. Tell me about. Oh, what heck just happened? Tell me
yeah, so
about the.
that's the tank I just finished up. Um,
Oh,
I've wanted to do, since being in the military, I've always loved doing stuff that honors military, firefighters, cops. You know, if you serve if you serve in a uniform and you do it honorably, you deserve to be honored. And so I like, you know, when I tattooed, I used to do memorial pieces for we lost guys over in Afghanistan, and like I drew a sleeve for another guy from the company. Um, I was fully expecting to do the tattoo. I wasn't going to charge him for it. If you're honoring, my mentality then was if you're honoring another brother, you've already paid enough. You don't need to pay me. So I was doing memorial tattoos for free for, fellow soldiers. Um, Even after I got out, I did a lot of memorial stuff, as far as tattoos and engravings go.
yeah. This
But
is really nice. I mean, it's got a lot of detail in it. Never
yeah,
forget.
this tank was, as a kid, I saw the trade centers, because my mom and her husband lived in upstate New York, over in Saratoga Springs. He was in the Navy, stationed at the nuclear. So as a kid in the '80s, me and my brother would fly across country, go spend summers with my mom, and every time we flew into New York, we stop and do the touristy thing. Well, one year we saw the trade towers, and it was just, I've always wanted to do something to commemorate that day, because for our generation, that was our Pearl Harbor.
Wow,
It,
that's a
you
great
know, it
analogy, or good. I mean, a great comparison, man. That
well
yeah,
when you look at it, Pearl Harbor was considered America's loss. That was the day America lost her innocence, because
yeah,
we thought we were this huge, we weren't big, but we were this powerful nation. Nobody was going to touch us. We there wasn't anything. We had an arrogance about us, but at the same time, we had an innocence because we nobody around us was going to try and mess with us. And I think we were at that point again when 9/11 happened,
yeah,
but we never would have. Nobody ever would have could have predicted it happening like that.
yeah.
Not the average American
Right.
never would have thought something like that would have happened.
I mean,
I know the
later on, I used to be I went through anti-terrorism force protection course to be the anti-terrorism officer. While my unit had pushed to Afghanistan, I had one of my many knee surgeries at the time, um, and there were a lot of telltale signs. Looking, through the case studies that we did as part of that course, that there was a lot of things in the past. Remember in the early '90s when they tried to blow up the top? Those were the dry runs, and before.
yeah
So that's the conclusion. Hey, well, this explosion didn't work. Fucking let's get an airplane. Let's get a couple of
Well, yeah,
airplanes. And so,
and
but yeah,
it's kind of like the old thing. Practice makes perfect.
yeah.
You
You got a
know,
lot. You got a lot of
when
detail
you
on this
look at
stuff, dude.
yeah, this was so this side of it is probably my favorite. This is the
Oh,
side of
yeah.
everybody. There's so many iconic photos taken that day, and I think this one was just was perfect for the tank because it was the photo of a firefighter named Timothy Duffy.
Yeah, here it is. I'm
Um,
highlighting it with the mouse.
he was off duty when the towers were hit. He rode his bike to the station house, and by the time he got there, all the trucks were gone. It was empty. He threw on his turnout gear and rode to ground zero on his Harley.
Wow.
And this was that photo taking him driving through the streets, through the debris.
How many hours you got into this stuff right here, man? And just on this side alone.
Just on that side, I'm probably about, I'd say close to between 30 and 40 hours.
God damn. I mean, it doesn't sound like
And
much, but I can only so you do like one my mom is an artist, and she used to do with these with this Skillcraft pens, the fine tip.
yeah,
She used to do dot painting, dot drawing, and
that's
she I
basically
mean
what this is.
yeah, so I mean so you literally like drr, 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 with the
Yeah.
engraver.
Yeah. This is all when I do like tanks like this, or work like this, it's all individually dotted in. And you work in layers. So you go through and dot in try and get all your bold stuff,
Right.
get all your real bright parts done first. Then you come back in and do your subtle stuff. But by the time when I think I've got it ready for clear coat, I'll wipe the whole thing down with like rubbing alcohol, and that'll give you a look of or an idea of what it will look like with the clear on top. Um, because there's still a lot of paint on here. You know, everything is all the dots that are visible, it's actually the metal underneath you see. So I'm
Right.
cutting through, the factory paint job. But yeah, it's just it's dot by dot by dot.
That's amazing.
I think this side took just over a week to do.
And this is you right here, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
back.
this was actually at a local lowrider event. I love doing car shows and bike shows and stuff because I'm doing so I'm creating a market, or I'm creating a new way to customize. I did the paint and body work through school. I did the mechanical side of the automotive program over at the community college, and this was just like, this is just something that I can do. That one, I can do it almost anywhere. All I need is an extension cord.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm doing stuff that nobody else is doing with the Dremel, or at least in my part of the country. I haven't yet to find. I think I know one other guy who's doing work. Um, and he some quality stuff, but not on the scale or that I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I love this fender too. The Dia de los Muertos. But this is another very this is beautiful what you did right here. You got the different soldiers. Uh,
Yeah, that
obviously the
piece
the fallen
actually.
one right over here.
So this piece, it took 500 hours.
Wow.
At that time, I was actually when I did that was Christmas of 2019. Around Thanksgiving, Christmas time is 2019. Um, I started it at an event at the local Harley Davidson where I was presenting two local groups with memorial portraits of their loved one. One of them was a Vietnam vet that I got to know. He was one of the founders of a local motorcycle group. Great organization. The other one was a Gold Star mom. Um, her son was killed in Iraq, and with the, you know, with the benefits that they received from his death, uh, they opened up a God, what's it called? It's a nonprofit called New Beginnings. The
Okay.
kid's name was Nick Newby, so they used his last name as Newby Beginnings. And they help out with, active duty, National Guard reservists, veterans, like simple things they need for their homes. They help them out with bills if they can. It's a pretty good organization around here. But yeah, I did a portrait for each of them. And at that event, Harley kind of promoted a little bit. The local media, the local news outlets caught wind of it, and they came into the story about it. And at that show, or at that event, I started that military piece, and that was on Veterans Day 2019. And I got it done in just over 5 weeks. It became an obsession. I was putting in 12-hour days every single day of the week. I'd go into my studio, I'd put on my headphones, and I'd just jam out all day. And I had a guy lined up to buy it. Gave him the price, everything was good. Sent him the day I talked to him in the morning of the day he's supposed to buy it. And like, hey, we're still good. Let me know. I'll send you my PayPal. As soon as I get the money, I'll get this thing boxed up and get it shipped out. He said, no problem. That was the last thing I heard from him. Straight ghosted me, blocked me on all the platforms, blocked my phone number, blocked my emails. And it pissed me off. But it had a silver lining. Hank Robinson actually, I sent him pictures and videos of a lot of my work, or a lot of the big pieces I do. Just, hey bro, thanks for the inspiration here. Here's what I'm doing with what you opened me up to. But he told me about the VA's Creative Arts Festival. And it's an annual deal they do. It's an art show for each VA. And at each VA will take, all their first place or blue ribbon winners are entered into the national art show. And then they move the national one around. That year, I found out about it. I found out about the show 2 weeks before it happened.
Okay, and so and then you entered it, and where's this displayed at?
Right now, it's at the VA in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Oh wow.
So I entered in the show. First time I've ever entered a piece of my artwork in any kind of competition. Actually, I won the local show, and I never thought it was going to be as big of a piece as it was.
Right.
Because within 2 months, I found out I won the national show.
Oh wow.
First time entering an actual piece of artwork, and I hit a fucking grand slam. And it was great. It was, for the first time as an artist, I was like,
validated.
I can actually do some. Yeah, it was complete validation. And I showed that piece at every event until this year. This last year, VA actually bought the piece from me. It's on a permanent display at their Coeur d'Alene, Idaho VA clinic. Um, that was probably the high for me. That's the highlight of that piece right there. Is that the VA bought it. Um, they named the clinic in honor of two Medal of Honor recipients. I got to meet one of them. Amazing guy. There's, I, it was interesting because I got to meet the guy, and then a few weeks later, I was watching TV and I going through the streaming services. I found this deal about Medal of Honor recipient, where they make, they do a cinematic about like the actual battle, the series of events that earned them the Medal of Honor.
Right.
And here I am watching this episode, and here's the guy I just met.
Oh, wow.
And he was a Vietnam, he was a Vietnam era SEAL. Was nominated for 2 separate Medal of Honors.
Okay.
Off of 2 separate missions. I mean, the guy was but one of the most humble people I've ever met in my life.
That's awesome, dude. No, that's to get validated and to get that, those type of things.
Yeah.
It's
That piece right there just took what was becoming, took what was becoming a hobby and just elevated it. It's like, let's see what else I can do.
yeah.
I'm just a dumb army guy. I'm just a dumb army guy with a Dremel. Let's see what I can do with this, and it's been a very interesting, 6 years of doing this. I've gone from being, within 2 years, I became a national award-winning artist, which still blows me away. I've engraved 5 complete cars, bodies, trim. I built a Volkswagen Bug when I was going through college, and engraved the entire thing, and wound up selling it to one of my longest customers. But it's been crazy what I've discovered of what I can always, or what I keep discovering what I can do with such a simple tool.
That's awesome, dude. So if just for time's sake, where can people find you on social media? Got about 2 minutes. Yeah.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is Engraved by Austin.
Okay.
My Facebook is funny because I misspelled my first name.
Yeah, we were talking about
and once you do that, once you hit submit and you create your profile, at least I haven't found it, but you can't change it. You can't change your name from that point. You can create side pages. And this winter, I'm actually going to dedicate some time to creating I use my Facebook more as a business page than anything. I don't post personal stuff on there rarely. It's all about, I do live videos where I'll set up my phone to record while I engrave, and I broadcast it live on Facebook and on Instagram.
Yeah, I've seen some of the feeds on there as well.
It's interesting to me how many people will watch, because I'll do a feed for like 6-7 hours straight, and there's always there'll be like a dozen people on at one point, and they'll be on there for like an hour or two. And it's like,
yeah, no, that's great.
If you're willing to watch, I'm willing to show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, thanks so much. Thanks so much for your service, brother, and
Thank you.
thanks so much for your time. And we'll definitely keep an eye out for you, and we'll bring you back on, and so that way you can update us on your stuff. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah, I got a lot of future projects I'm going to try and start this within the next year. I'm gonna start up my own art therapy group here. I want to kind of take a page out of another guy's book and teach combat vets how to engrave something. See if they can, maybe I might spark that guy that, like I got sparked, that spark ignited with me. But it's just here's an avenue you can do where you can shut down. You can focus on something so small that the rest of the world disappears.
That's true. But it's still an outlet. So thanks so much for, first of all, bro, thanks so much for your service. Thanks so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. We appreciate you. So, but just stand by. Don't pop off on me yet. Let me do my goodbye to the show, and then we can talk after.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Well, you've met, if you have any questions for Austin, you can, all the show information, or I'm sorry, his feed and all his handles we'll do as part of the show description. It's been an amazing time. It's been an amazing day. Talking a little bit with this amazing artist right over here. If you've been struggling with PTSD, with, the rumination and all the other stuff that, that we as veterans tend to struggle with all the time, then by all means, hit us up right here at the show, and then we'll go ahead and we'll talk about it. If not, I can plug you in with some with folks out there who can certainly help you out and get you on the right track. Because at the end of the day, while push-ups and pull-ups and all this other stuff. And by the way, I'm doing the 22 a day challenge in December. So 2,200 pull-ups, push-ups for this month. That's my challenge that I'm doing right now in the name of veteran awareness. So follow the link that I've posted on the show and donate to this amazing cause. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be talking about you, your eulogy, and giving us really sad speech about you. We want you here, and we want to get you the services that you need. Because maybe you weren't the nicest individual, and we don't want to be lying about you anyway. So we want you to stick around so we can talk trash in front of your face. You know what I'm saying? But all kidding aside, hey, reach out. And if you haven't heard from a buddy at all, hey, it's your homework this weekend to reach out and touch someone. So with that being said, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. We're going to go ahead and index Ice Tomas, Dice McGee. All right, get some, everybody. We'll see you next week. Yeah.